let's get down to business. It is 7 o'clock, Thursday, August 14th, and we're going to call the regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Okay, we're going to move to an approval of the agenda. Has everyone ever had a chance to review the agenda? Are there any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
We got a motion by Greg, second by Jeff. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Moving on to the minutes from the July 10th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes? Any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve them.
So move.
Moved by Clarence and supported by Greg. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. So we'll move on to public hearings and new business. We have one item on the agenda. It's application 007 ZBA 8716. The applicant is Chris Karate of Aver Signs Company on behalf of Nasser Holdings LLC for property located at 42438 Warren Road. Let's see, the subject parcel is a Shell gas station and convenience store. The property is zone C1, Village Shopping, Windsor Park PUD, and the applicant is requesting a variance from section 6A252E to allow ground sign lettering that is less than the minimum size allowed. Moving on to staff report, please.
Thank you. We have a staff report in the packet for the variance application, and the application is for the property at the northwest corner of Warren Road and Lily Road for the Shell gas station. The site is in the process of rebranding from a Marathon to a Shell, and it's currently a gas station and convenience store. The use is proposed to continue. As far as I know, everything about the use is proposed to continue as is, and the existing sign will remain, and the applicant proposes just to reface the sign. The current ground sign is just over 39 square feet, which is more than the maximum sign area of 24 square feet permitted by the zoning ordinance. However, the non-conforming sign area is permitted to continue, and the zoning ordinance allows for content changes on existing non-conforming signs. In the applicant's rendering with the application, the text and content of the sign is shown, and much of the text is below the minimum size thresholds for text on a ground sign, which is in section 6A.25(2)E of the zoning ordinance. And the applicant is proposing to change the content on the sign with the Shell branding, but also with some text that is less than 10 inches high for primary text and less than 5 inches high for the secondary text. This section of the ordinance requires a text height of at least 10 inches on a ground sign, with secondary text permitted to be at least 5 inches if occupying not more than 25% of the sign. And section 6A.25 of the ordinance exists to ensure that signs are legible and easily comprehensible to motorists. This is both roads, Warren and Lily, are heavily trafficked roads, and this is a very busy intersection. And so the reason the text heights are there in the ordinance is for visibility and legibility of the signs. And in many areas of the proposed sign, the text height is under 10 inches and under 5 inches in many areas. In our staff report, we go through a few different areas where the text height is below, and because the existing sign is much larger than what the minimum ordinance requires, or the maximum that the ordinance requires, there's more opportunity to get more content on the sign and therefore increase the size of the text. So in looking at the sign and not necessarily just the content, but looking at the area of the sign and the layout of what the applicant's trying to achieve, we see some areas there on the sign that are blank where the text height could be increased. There could be areas where maybe the text is larger and the associated logos are smaller to meet that minimum text height standard. So we've we go through the standards of section 27.05D3 of the zoning ordinance, and we have several findings throughout our staff report and in our conclusions. And I won't go through each and every one of them, so they're summarized there. And based on our analysis, we don't believe the standards of section 27.05D of the ordinance have been met based on the material that's been submitted. Therefore, based on the material submitted, our recommendation would be to deny that requested variance from the zoning ordinance to allow the lettering that's smaller. However, because it's possible for the applicant to revise the sign, and there's areas of the sign where compliance is either attainable or greater compliance towards the minimum can be achieved, the Zoning Board of Appeals could consider postponing action to allow the applicant an opportunity to make revisions. So we prepared two model motions. One model motion is a motion to deny, and another model motion is a motion to postpone action on the application. Prior to the meeting, the applicant had presented some revised sign renderings, and he can distribute that to the Zoning Board of Appeals when he presents the case. And in some cases, on this revised drawing, the text height is a little bit larger, and in some areas is compliant with the 5 inches in some areas and tries to achieve some greater compliance in others, although still under 5 inches in some areas. So from the community planner standpoint, what I'd like to do with the proposed sign design is to talk to the sign official in the building division and get his opinion on the proposed layout, if he has any recommendations. He's reviewed probably hundreds of different ground signs. He's seen almost every type of ground sign that we have in Canton Township. So I rely a lot on his advice and opinion when it comes to ground signs in terms of things that can possibly be done sometimes to achieve greater compliance. So my recommendation would be to postpone action on the application in light of the new information that staff would like to review with the sign official in the building division. But I'll defer to the Zoning Board of Appeals on that after the public hearing and discussions with the applicant and deliberations on the case itself. So that concludes our staff report, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Are there any questions for Patrick?
Just a rhetorical one. It's more sarcastic than anything else. Is this the first time that anyone has ever wanted smaller when it comes to signage?
Strangely, no. We've actually, I think a month ago or two, we had someone asking for the same
usually
thing.
it's bigger is better in every regard, whether it be font or sign size. So this
Yeah,
is.
no, I
when
feel
read
like
this, it
someone
was,
asked for this a
whoa,
couple
this is different.
months
Yeah,
ago.
Anyway, I'm not really expecting an answer on that. I just
Well-
wanted, that was a comment more than anything else.
We do have that discussion frequently when there might be a sign, because we do have a lot of applicants that we deter where they say, well, we're just going to apply for a variance. And sometimes we say, well, before you apply, let's try to redesign it, try to achieve compliance. And in many cases we can, where we try to get compliance before someone applies for a variance and just say, look, you have area to go higher. Or in one of the cases for the daycare a few months ago, they actually made the ground sign too small. So we told them, make the ground sign 24 square feet and see what that does to the text. And we were able to achieve some conformity there. So yeah, sometimes administratively through the process, trying to increase that text height, we do try.
Any other questions for Patrick? I have one. So Patrick, I think I see, where your recommendation's at, and we're going to hear from the applicant. But I think what I'm still just I'm struggling a little bit here. And we've had a lot of sign stuff come up in this year at least. I feel like we've had a lot more than previous years. What's the practical difficulty? I just don't see it. I mean, there was none really articulated in the application, and I'm kind of the mind that even when I want to grant relief, there's a bare minimum standard they have to meet. And if they can't meet that minimum standard, it's hard for me to find the door to give them relief. And so I'm confused on what the practical difficulty would be in this case.
Well, I can say generally, and not specific to this case, but I'll say in general, and I can cite another franchise where sometimes if it's a large national or international franchise and there's a certain branding that they want, their first instinct is just to apply for a variance without trying to revise the plans or try to achieve compliance. I can't speak for Shell, or that's what they're doing in this case, but in one other case, this was probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was a McDonald's with a ground or a pole sign.
I remember that.
On Michigan Avenue, and their applicant had said, well, McDonald's wanted to take a shot and try to keep the pole sign, even though there wasn't too much of a practical difficulty that we saw. But from the corporate headquarters and the franchise, our understanding was, that directive came from them, where just apply for the variance and see if we can get it. And in that case, they made an attempt at the practical difficulty, but we didn't agree with their analysis. And it's hard, and sometimes when it's a national franchise where they just want a certain type of branding and they apply for the practical difficulty or apply for the variance, sometimes the want to apply for a variance is goes ahead of just doing the analysis and seeing if they should make the application. And again, I'm not saying that's the case here, but sometimes when it's a big national franchise, we see that.
Yeah, but I mean, it still just brings me back to my point or my question, which is like, when we have granted relief related to sign size and sign lettering, every time, and often the applicant didn't really ask for, or like didn't apply for it correctly, and then we had a discussion and they revised it and we ended up getting there. But, it had to do with setback distances or, differentiation between similar zoning that allows the same use, right? That is a practical difficulty from a fairness perspective, that like you have one use that's permitted in two different zoning types, and one zoning type allows a particular size of sign and the other one doesn't. Like we just had this, I think it was with the daycare.
Yep.
But in a case like this, I feel like there needs to be some practical difficulty articulated for us to grant some kind of relief, even if it's revised relief. And I'm not seeing it in the application, and so I'm just wondering, is the applicant, if we're going to postpone it, what's the direction to the applicant? Is he going to get some advice on how to make a case? Because right now I don't see a case.
Yeah, I think in our analysis in our letter, we have the standard and our finding in terms of what's not made. I don't think we really presented any alternatives in terms of, if you do X, Y, and Z, you can make a case for it, because it's really hard for us as staff to see that case being made. It's a pretty highly visible intersection. The size is 15 square feet larger than is allowed in the district. It's a two-sided sign at an intersection, so it's very visible. There's a lot of blank space on the sign where it could be increased in height. I don't know if the masonry base could be lowered to the minimum, but that probably wouldn't work, because you can't increase the sign area. So it's really just allocating the space within the sign to get the fuel prices that are probably the most important, because in terms of traffic and volume, and it looks like that can be attainable, and filling in those blank spaces on the sign by stretching out the text. If you need to keep the aspect ratio, maybe it means the logo is a little bit smaller. There's a lot of different things that can be done within the sign to try to increase or maximize the text height, where there's room to try that. And we would like to see that attempt made before we see if there's really a practical difficulty, because there are a lot of other gas stations in the community that have 24 square feet and they're able to function there. They'll have their logo and then maybe the price of the regular and the price of the diesel. And in some cases, they can get a third price in there if it's, a shopper's card or discount card or some other cash price, something like that.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's it for me. Anything else?
I mean, I didn't understand, so on.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that either, but I figured we'll give the applicant a chance to explain it to us. So with that, I guess I would move to the applicant. Are you the applicant? Could you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and then state your case, please?
Good evening. My name is Chris Karate. I represent Aver Sign Company. We're at 1285 Wordsworth Street in Ferndale. We're here to ask for a variance for this sign. I do have a updated rendering that I would like to pass out, if I may.
Yeah, that's fine. Hand it out.
Yes, I've got one. Yep.
Since you did hand out like a revised rendering, I would appreciate it. Can you just walk us through?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what is compliant and not compliant? And Patrick can speak up if, you get something wrong.
Yes,
but-
the regular and diesel panels have both been expanded to 5 inches, a little over 5 inches. The red panel that says like Shell V-Power and the one at the top of the regular with 100 points, both of those are Shell brand standards that they didn't allow us to adjust. We want to work with you to try to get, within as close to compliance as possible at the very least. So that's why we increased the size and we got the approval to do that. As far as making the digits larger, I don't believe that's possible with the sign configured as it is, and I'm not certain, but I believe if we change the configuration of the sign, that it's no longer a reface, now it's a non-conforming sign. So we're trying to spare the expense of an entirely new sign and stay within well, at least as close as possible to the letter of the ordinance.
Now, you're referring to the size of the numbers, like on the pricing?
Well, yes, everything, but yeah, the size of the numbers especially too, because I believe that the standard is 10 inches, and I'm not certain that 10 inches would fit in the sign, like I said, as it is configured. And if we change the configuration too much, then I feel that it's going to be a non-conforming sign and not a reface of a sign that is grandfathered in.
Right. And I guess, Patrick, this is a question for you. This was a non-conforming sign. I assume this is the size that the lettering was already there. Was it just a really, really old sign? Like, why do they have 6-inch letters instead of 10-inch letters?
In terms of the previous sign, I don't think I have those dimensions. I can look on Street View just to get a little bit of insight of what would have been there previously. Yeah, I can't see based on the existing content of the Marathon sign or the previous content if those text heights met the ordinance or not. And it's possible that our sign official may have reviewed that particular plan for Marathon at the time, so he may have some insights in terms of, what, if it's under that 25% that's allowed to be 5 inches. But with the refacing of the sign, if the paneling is taken off, then any nonconformity with the text height goes away with that particular sign. So if someone was refacing it and was looking at, a smaller text height that was similar as before, they would have to apply for a variance because any previous nonconformity that's removed would not be able to continue or be reestablished.
Okay. So I understood all the words you said, but now I'm confused. So like, the gas prices, is that subject to this variance, or is that grandfathered in as non-conforming?
If it is the same, if it's the same paneling, the same, LED electronic paneling, I think that could continue.
So that would not be subject, he would not need a variance to keep it at 6 inches, the fact that it's not 10.
Yeah, if it's the existing illuminated sign that's currently there today, then that could remain because that would be an existing nonconformity that's continuing.
And is that the case? I don't know what you're doing.
As far as I know, yes, that is the case.
Okay. Now, like, if it wasn't the case, right, like, then you would need a variance for it, even if we don't talk about it tonight, just to be clear.
Okay.
Okay, so the lettering for the numbers for the gas station prices we're assuming that is a non-conforming but grandfathered issue, so not subject to this discussion.
Yeah, if it remains as it did with Marathon.
Okay.
And we can confirm that.
And then when you say as is, like, they can't change the color, they can't change anything, it's exactly the same, or it's just, whatever the lights are behind it that light it up?
They could probably change the coloring. They could probably change, if there's the bulb or the wiring or something about it. But on Street View, Google Street View, there's the text height that's within that lettering. So if they're changing like the bulbs or something else there, as long as that text height remains as previously existed in that space where it was, then that would be a continuation of that nonconformity.
Okay, and that applies to the gas prices, but that does not apply to the text for regular and diesel, or it does?
It wouldn't because the panel from Marathon would come off and then the panel from Shell would go on.
Okay. So when I'm looking at the sign, right, and I see, so diesel and regular, so those are now, in this diagram, those are conforming because they're greater than 5 inches?
Yes.
Okay. And so then we've got this regular with 100 points in the Kroger card. That seems like that's a lot to try to fit in there.
I'm not arguing, but it's a Shell brand standard as far as I know.
Yeah.
And same goes with the Shell V-Power panel beneath the Shell logo, the red panel, as those are both Shell brand standards, and they're very reluctant to change those.
Okay, well, so let's stay on the regular thing for now. That just seems like a lot of text, and you're getting to the point where it's so small, it's almost like it's just a symbol. Like, I mean, I don't know that people can read that. So I'm trying to just understand the fact that I'm looking at the cabinet, right? And it looks like you have space above and below it, so you could expand it and make it bigger to try to fit all of that text.
Then you'd have to move.
No, I think the digital would stay where it is, but like you have space above and below the white where he has regular with 100 points.
But then that's the visual opening of the sign that would then have to be changed, and then I'm not certain Patrick would be the person to ask, I
okay,
suppose,
'cause-
whether or not the change in that visual opening now changes the sign to be non-conforming. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the old sign. It looks like it had a lot of stuff on it too. Gasoline looks like is that American Express? Regular is actually abbreviated. And you got all these, you got a blue card thing. This is the old sign. So it's like, we're not changing much. If it was able to, because we already had a bunch of stuff there that this is totally illegible.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
No, I know. It's a little confusing to me, honestly, Patrick, because I'm looking at the old sign and those letters look smaller than these letters. And so it was a larger than normal sign, but it had smaller than approved lettering even when it was Marathon.
Yeah.
This is an odd case to me.
One more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's hard for me to imagine you wanting smaller letters because people going by are going to be looking at the price. That's usually what they look at anyway.
Right.
They don't even care if it's Shell sometimes.
I could not agree more.
Right, it's sort of like,
So,
that's what I'm going to look for.
Yeah.
And and the other thing I was going to say was that corporations, they have designs packaged. That's why they do them the same way, so they say
exactly,
cost.
correct, yes.
There might be another thing on the shelf that fits this. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it would have to be asked if it was. But usually, if they're going into different communities and they're doing a lot of different things, they have a package for each one of those, just to say, already designed, on the shelf, ready to be installed.
They do, that's true.
Yeah.
I think the problem that we run into is that there's no standards in the actual building of the signs, because those companies don't build the signs. Sign companies build the signs. And they build the signs based on whatever is expedient for them at the time. So whoever built this sign designed it in a way that is now causing us serious difficulties based on the ordinance and what we have to work with. So you understand what I'm saying? Like, not every sign is the same. Now, the digits are pretty standard. You have 6, 8, 10-inch digits, but everything else around them,
The only reason I say that is that sign companies are efficient too. You know what I mean? They've taken a sign like this before, somewhere. It wasn't just Canton. And so what I'm saying is they probably have standards as well. They may have something else on the shelf. I don't know. But I mean, it might be worth asking. Can
well,
you
we
comply
definitely
with
are
this?
trying to work with the brand and with the
Right.
city to try to get everything as close as humanly possible
Right.
for this.
Right.
We are trying.
I try to make it easy, man.
Yeah.
I bet they got something. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, another question too. So you have this note for this Shell V-Power saying this cannot be changed. What cannot be changed?
The size of the text in that panel. I guess that Shell was very obstinate about that panel and the size of the text and how the logo works. And they're very touchy about how their logos are and their fonts and everything being a certain ratios and things like that. So it's not the brand does not want to start messing around with the size of things like that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it begins to become a problem with their branding and their brand image then, their copyrights and stuff. So they want things to be how they want them. And so we tried to see if we could change the size of that, and they said no.
But
So-
like,
Why does it say non-compliant requires Shell approval?
Oh, that's just it's an overlay on the rendering. That just means that Shell has to give final approval of the sign before everything is installed. Good question. They will, they do, but they want to make the choice every time. So if we go through this and you, let's say, just say you approved it, I would still have to send it back to Shell for their approval and their brand standards and everything based on what we've agreed to. So that's why it says that.
Sign has to be split like it is right
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, that's also a question for Patrick. I mean, we could, but whether or not that would remain compliant, I don't know.
So yeah, I guess that's a question I have too. So when I'm looking at this Shell V-Power thing and all the, like, the brown space around it, is that brown space available, or is that's
No,
like
that's
that?
like the framework.
That's like the framing,
Yeah,
and this thing is
it's a plastic
sitting.
panel that slides in behind it. That's the size of the visual opening. That's what it is.
And
If
so-
if you took that red ping out, you'd have a black hole, and that is metal around it.
I see. So the issue here is that the Shell V-Power, it's the way it's oriented, and it's just a lot of words. And in particular, you're trying to stack them vertically on top of each other. This is unrelated to anything I've asked, but because it was in your application, can you explain the whole horizontal comment? Because I didn't understand
I'm
it at all.
honestly not certain what comment you're referring to.
If you look at the application, there was a comment on one of the questions that said some because of the horizontal nature, it was harder to read or something like that. I didn't understand what you meant.
If you give me a minute to find it, I can.
Yeah, I mean, I have it here. Hold on. Okay, it's in C. This is under 1C. It says, explain how the practical difficulty is not self-created. The client would have preferred to reface the original sign in its original configuration, but the sign ordinance would not allow the layout. So this potentially problematic horizontal configuration is not their choice, but a legal necessity. There are a few other options available, or there are few, if any, other options available due to the ordinance. So I'm not really sure what you guys are trying to.
It may have been a
Convey.
reference to the original sign. I don't have the original sign in front of me, so I'm not certain what exactly it was being compared to.
Well, and that was my question too, like B, where it's saying practical difficulty, and the client's concern is that passing traffic.
Is mic on?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hold on, Jeff. Jeff, can you turn your mic on, please? You got to hit the button.
The button. There you go.
Sorry about that. B, where it says our client's concern is that passing traffic will have difficulty reading prices in this configuration and that they could be overlooked from a distance. So, I mean, if it's smaller, that's even worse, right?
Yes?
No, I didn't understand that. That's the one I was asking about.
I think we're referring to the price or digits themselves there, not the wording of the panels. I'm not entirely certain, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Did you have a?
And just one more thing. The new design, though, is actually easier to read because of the white space and the lettering. It seems a lot easier. I can see that a lot better. And the prices are all the same, I noticed. Didn't matter if you had diesel or the other one.
Well, I
Okay.
think, yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Tarek.
I guess if this sign size is already grandfathered in, and I'm still trying to understand, okay, what are we changing here?
Yeah. So I'm going to try to articulate this, and I want Patrick to speak up. So my understanding is, so the sign, the monument sign itself is larger than permitted in the zoning space, but that physical sign is essentially grandfathered in as a non-conforming sign if it's not changed. So anything that they change on the sign is subject to the ordinance. So even though the overall total square footage of area is larger, it's still subject to the lettering requirements. But because they're not actually changing the LED lights, those kind of like ride along with the sign, I guess. It's a little bit weird case. I mean, part of the problem is there's just the entire purpose of having this requirement, right, for minimum sizes is for legibility. And then you guys are asking to shrink the size and shove more words into it, which makes it harder to read. And so I think for me, it goes back to my previous comments, is that, you know, we're reasonable people, but one, the application was essentially incomplete because you didn't really make a case whatsoever for what the practical difficulty was. The argument was basically like, we want this because of our brand, and that doesn't jive with what our minimum legal requirements are. And then two, there's comments in the application that are just confusing. So I think your chances of getting an approval tonight are very slim, and I personally will be voting no. I'm not saying that we can't come to some kind of thing, but I would recommend that, that you work with the department and work with Patrick and the sign people to try to come up with a better plan, and in particular, a plan that we can even approve. Because even if we're asking for something pretty reasonable, at least where I'm at is I don't see the legal door. You don't have the right key, because the words that you provided to us don't give us justification, and we have to take this into account because we can get sued by other people, and we have to be consistent.
Yes, I understand.
Is there any other questions?
Not questions, just comments concurring with what you're saying right now. And I'm confused because even if the LEDs are expanded, let's say that was agreed to and they were expanded to 10 inches or whatever, we're still dealing with the other verbiage on the sign, which is extremely small, including the sign that the applicant said that it untouchable. I'm not sure where we're going to go with this, and he's still got to get approval from Shell. Anyway, it's like, this is all very much confusing to me as to what we can accomplish tonight.
Yeah, and again, Patrick, I'm looking to you to confirm. My understanding is you've got a sign, right, with a frame, and there's cutouts in the frame. And what they're changing is what's in those frames. And as long as they're changing the stuff that's in the frames and not the frames themselves, then they're essentially riding along on the grandfather clause and they don't have to like ask for the non-conforming sign to be approved. Is that what we're talking about here? So they've got like only the space available to them in the existing cutout frames. And if they change those cutout frames or make them larger, they're now modifying the sign. And then they would have to ask for a variance for the entire monument sign. Is that the situation we're in?
To that question, I'm not so sure, and because that gets into some of the technical aspects of the sign itself with the frames and the construction and what's behind it. And that's another thing that I'd like to talk to the sign official about to see at what point can you work on a non-conforming sign and still keep the non-conformity while still having the sign itself, and how he's applied that before. So if the outer frame is kept, and we're able to work within the outer frame, he may have a method by which he does that because he does deal with non-conforming signs and refacing. So those are some more technical questions in terms of what you can and can't do with construction and electricity and meeting the code within that sign and still be able to meet the ordinance too. So that's where I would need the technical expertise of the sign official.
Yeah, okay. So we try to be nice and always give the applicant the choice, right? Like if you can decide to basically like ask us to postpone your thing, or you can ask us to just vote and then we'll vote and we'll make a determination and we'll close the case. Do you have,
I think we'd prefer to table it.
okay. With that, I think it's still appropriate to hold the public hearing.
Yes.
I think I'm good. Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
Just one.
Yep.
What is V-Power?
It's a Shell
That's
gas
what I'm
brand as far
thinking.
as I know.
Yeah, I have no
don't-
idea what
mean,
V-Power is.
I don't know.
Okay,
It's a
just
Shell brand
curious.
thing. I don't honestly know.
I'm curious. Uh-oh.
No. If you, it's okay for you to answer, but if you want to answer, you got to come up to the podium, state your name for the record.
Well, but we haven't opened the public hearing.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, are you part of the applicant? Then I think
okay,
it's
yeah,
come on up.
yeah,
Come on up.
yeah.
That's fine because you're speaking on the issue at hand. Yeah.
Khalil Barakat, manager at the Warren and Lilly gas station.
Thank you.
V-Power is actually the detergent they use in the gas.
The
It's a
term
ga-
they
It's
use.
the gas treatment.
It's a
Gas
detergent. He said
treatment.
Gas
detergent.
treatment.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a gas treatment.
okay.
Okay.
Thank
Can
you.
you,
Who are you?
yeah, I didn't get speak into the microphone with your name and your address, please.
Khalil Barakat,
Okay, thank you.
the address at the station or
Sure, that's
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine.
42438 Warren.
Okay.
I represent FlexSmart, the manager at the Warren and Lilly Shell.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Move to open the public hearing.
Okay, we got a motion. Is there a
Support.
second? So motion by Clarence, support by Greg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this issue? Hearing none, seeing none.
Close the public hearing?
We have a motion to close by Clarence, support by Greg. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Public hearing is closed. So we've got a request by the applicant to table. I don't know if there's any other comments. I guess I would just follow up for me, just say, please work with the department. They'll try to hopefully come to some kind of resolution, and then make sure that when you revise your application, I recommend revising the application and making sure that it's legally compliant.
Of course.
Any that,
Need us.
yeah, well, he might, but
We have to make a motion.
yeah,
to
we
table
still, yeah, so is there, if there's no other discussion, we'd entertain a motion to table this. We have a model motion, the model motion on number 2 that we can use.
Yeah, I'm going to move model motion number 2 for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion by
Support.
Greg, support by Clarence. Any discussion?
Yeah, so in doing that now, we're giving the applicant the opportunity to do some revisions based upon working with planning.
Yep.
Right? And all of the questions will then be resolved within the existing frame space, is what you're saying. I wish you a lot of luck. I hope it goes well. Right now, I'm not optimistic because there's so much going on in that sign. But I'm okay with the tabling motion to give you the opportunity to do this, because I want to see it successful for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can prevail upon Shell to work with us, because, I mean,
Yeah.
that's really the impediment here. We're happy to do whatever the city requires of us. It's really the brand that we have to work with and deal with and get them to approve, so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and they may just have to yield to the requirements. I do have a request, Patrick, before we vote, which is when we come back, can you please, because I'm still a little confused on, I understand that the larger sign's non-conforming, but I would like a more clear summary of what is non-conforming, what is conforming, and what the variance specifically, because we talked about lettering, but I want to know, like, there's a lot of different text on the sign. What is actually in front of us, right? And if there's things that are non-conforming but sort of like allowed to stay the way they are, I would like to know exactly what that is and why, so that we know what we're voting on, because I'm still a little unclear.
On top of what you're suggesting, I
Yes,
also
Tarek.
suggest to describe the practical difficulty as to why you're proposing.
Yeah, well, I agree, but that's on the applicant. But and obviously, like, Patrick can help articulate that and even help them articulate it when they're struggling if they ask for that kind of help. But ultimately, yeah, they need to have a practical difficulty.
Yep, we'll put that in our next staff report and lay that out.
Okay, thank you. I think it's appropriate to vote on the motion that's on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes, so we will postpone your application.
Okay.
Wish you luck in the next round.
Thank you.
And I think, let me see if there's anything else on the agenda. I don't think so. We've got no, there's no old business. There's nobody here, so no public comment. Is there miscellaneous anything, Patrick?
Nothing to add.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
We got a motion to adjourn
Support.
by Greg. I'll give that one to Tarek for support. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. I
Wanna give you
appreciate
this
it very
back?
much.
Is that okay?